The Galactic Council had been watching humanity for 300 years. From their great station orbiting the planet called Nexus Prime, the 12 oldest species in the galaxy kept their eyes on the strange creatures who lived on a small blue world called Earth. These creatures walked on two legs, spoke with strange sounds, had a hunger for exploration that worried the Council deeply. High Counselor Vareth sat in his chamber, his gray scales catching the light from the holographic screens floating before him. He was old, even by the standards of the Sindari, and he had seen many species rise and fall. But humans were different. They were fast. Too fast. "Look at these numbers," he said to the other council members gathered around the circular table. 200 years ago, they could barely leave their own atmosphere. Now they have colonies on 12 worlds. They have built ships that travel faster than light. They multiply like insects. Ambassador Kryn of the Thalani leaned forward, her transparent skin showing the purple organs beneath. "They are a plague," she hissed. "If we do nothing, they will spread across the galaxy like a disease. In 300 years, they will outnumber us all. In 500, they will rule us." The Council had rules for situations like this. When a species grew too fast, when they became a threat to the peace and balance of the galaxy, the Council could act. They could send warnings. They could create barriers. And if nothing else worked, they could send the Purification Fleet to end the threat forever. But such actions required every council member to agree. All 12 species had to vote yes. "I will not support genocide based on fear," said Ambassador Melian of the Vorth. She was younger than most council members, with soft blue fur and large dark eyes that held no hatred. "The humans have done nothing wrong. They have not attacked anyone. They have not broken any laws. You want to destroy them because of what they might do, not what they have done." 2 other species agreed with her. The vote failed. "Then we wait," Vareth said coldly. "We watch. And when they finally show their true nature, we will be ready." Far across the galaxy, on the planet Earth, a young woman named Lucy Harper sat alone in a dark room filled with computer screens. She worked for a small research station in the mountains of Colorado, listening to signals from space. Most nights were boring. Most signals were just noise from stars and distant objects. But tonight was different. Lucy leaned closer to her screen, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. She had found something strange in the data. Hidden signals, carefully encoded, bouncing between star systems she had never heard of. It took her translation program hours to make sense of even a small part of the messages. When she finally understood what she was reading, her blood went cold. The messages talked about Earth. They talked about humans. They used words like containment and elimination and purification. They discussed humanity the way a doctor might discuss a tumor that needed to be removed. Lucy did not sleep that night. She checked her work again and again, hoping she had made a mistake. But the signals were real. The messages were clear. Someone out there was discussing whether to destroy the human race. She knew she had to tell someone, but who would believe her? She was nobody, just a junior researcher at a small station. She had no proof that anyone important would accept. Then she remembered. Commander Daniel Vance. Vance worked for something called the United Earth Defense Initiative, a small military group that most people thought was a joke. They studied potential threats from space, which meant they spent most of their time being laughed at by other soldiers. But Vance had a reputation for taking strange reports seriously. Lucy sent him a message and waited. 3 days later, a military helicopter landed at her research station. Vance stepped out, a tired man in his 50s with gray hair and worried eyes. He had brought a team of specialists with him. "Show me everything," he said. Lucy showed him the signals, the translations, the careful work she had done to verify her findings. Vance listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sat in silence for a long time. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that there is a galactic government out there? That they have been watching us? And that they are trying to decide whether to wipe us out?" "I know how it sounds," Lucy replied. "But the data is clear. These signals are real. The translations might not be perfect, but the meaning is obvious. They see us as a threat. And they have weapons we cannot imagine." Vance stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And according to Lucy Harper, it might all be destroyed soon. "How long do we have?" he asked. "I don't know. The signals suggest they need to agree on a decision. There seem to be some who don't want to attack us. But eventually, they will make up their minds. Months, maybe. A year or two at most." Vance turned back to face her. There was something in his eyes now, something hard and determined. "Then we have work to do." He pulled out a secure phone and made a call that would change everything. Within hours, Lucy Harper was on a plane to Washington. Within days, she was explaining her findings to the leaders of every major nation on Earth. Some did not believe her at first. Some thought it was a trick, a lie designed to scare them. But the evidence was strong, and the stakes were too high to ignore. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed to work together. They created a secret project hidden from the public, hidden from the aliens watching them. They called it Project Exodus. The plan was simple in concept, but impossible in practice. If humanity could not fight a galactic armada, humanity would disappear. They would find a way to leave normal space entirely, to step into another dimension where the Council could not follow. They would become ghosts, invisible and untouchable. Lucy Harper was assigned to the team that would make this dream real. As she walked into the underground facility where the work would begin, she felt fear and hope in equal measure. They had so little time. The Council was debating their fate right now, and when the debate ended, the ships would come. Humanity had to be ready. In the chamber on Nexus Prime, Varath received another report on human activity. They were building something, but his spies could not determine what. The humans had become careful, secretive. It worried him. "We should act now," he urged the Council again. "Before they become too strong to stop." Again, the vote failed. Again, they decided to wait. They did not know that every day they waited was another day humanity used to prepare. The clock was ticking for both sides, and only one would survive when it finally ran out. The governments of Earth had never trusted each other. For centuries, nations had fought wars, built walls, and kept secrets from their neighbors. But when faced with the end of everything, old enemies found a way to work together. Project Exodus grew faster than anyone expected. Under the mountains of Switzerland, engineers built a facility larger than any city. In the deserts of China, scientists tested machines that bent the laws of physics. In the forests of Brazil, factories worked day and night to build the equipment that might save humanity. Dr. Catherine Moore stood at the center of it all. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and she had spent 30 years being told her ideas were impossible. She had written papers about dimensions beyond normal space, about layers of reality that existed alongside our own. Other scientists had called her crazy. They had denied her funding. They had laughed at her theories. Now those same scientists worked under her command. "Subspace," she explained to the gathered leaders in a meeting room deep underground. The holographic display showed a complex model of the universe, with glowing lines representing the dimensions humans could perceive. Think of normal space as the surface of an ocean. We live on the surface. We see only the surface. But beneath the waves, there is an entire world we cannot touch. No. She pointed to a shimmering layer beneath the normal universe. This is subspace. It exists parallel to our reality, occupying the same space, but in a different dimensional frequency. Our instruments have detected it. We have touched it briefly in laboratory conditions, but no one has ever tried to enter it. General Marcus Cole leaned forward. He was a large man with a scarred face and hands that had held weapons since he was 18 years old. "And you think we can move 8 billion people into this subspace?" "I think we have no choice," Catherine replied. "The Council has ships we cannot fight. They have weapons we cannot stop. But they have never discovered subspace. They do not know it exists. If we can shift our entire population into that dimension, we become invisible to them. We disappear." "How?" asked President Sandra Liu of the Eastern Alliance. "How do we move an entire planet?" Catherine brought up a new diagram. We build a network of dimensional stabilizers around the Earth. Each one creates a field that can push matter from normal space into subspace. When all the stabilizers activate together, the field covers the entire planet. Everything inside the field shifts dimensions. The cities, the people, everything, and the aliens cannot follow us. They would not even know where to look. To them, we simply vanish. The project required resources beyond anything humanity had ever gathered. Every factory on Earth began producing stabilizer components. Every satellite company launched new equipment into orbit. Every scientist who Do you understand the mathematics was brought into the program? The work was hard, and the hours were long. People worked until they collapsed, slept for a few hours, and returned to work again. They knew what was at stake. They knew they were racing against a clock they could not see. Lucy Harper worked in the communications division, monitoring the alien signals she had first discovered. The council continued to debate, and she tracked every message, every argument, every vote. She learned the names of the species that wanted humanity dead. She learned the names of those who argued for peace, and she learned that time was running out. The opposition is weakening, she reported to Commander Vance one cold morning. The species that supported us are facing pressure from the others. I think they will change their votes soon. Vance nodded grimly. How long? 6 months. Maybe less. They were not ready. The stabilizer network was only half complete. The dimensional field generators had not been tested at full scale. There were 1,000 problems still to solve and not enough. It's time to solve them. But humanity did not give up. Catherine Moore worked for 3 days without sleep, pushing her team to find solutions. Engineers invented new techniques on the spot. Scientists made breakthroughs that would have taken years under normal circumstances. The impossible became merely difficult, and the difficult became routine. Through it all, humanity kept up appearances. They sent messages to the stars, expressing hope for peaceful contact with other species. They pretended they knew nothing about the council, nothing about the debates that would decide their fate. They smiled for the cameras while building their escape in secret. Commander Vance coordinated the military aspects of the operation. Ships were quietly moved into position. Soldiers were trained for scenarios they hoped would never happen. Defense stations were built in orbit, not to fight the alien fleet, but to buy time if the council attacked before Exodus was ready. We cannot win a battle, Vance told his officers. We can only delay. Every hour we hold them off is another hour for civilians to evacuate. Every ship we destroy is one less hunting our people. We fight not to win, but to give humanity a chance to run. The soldiers understood. They were not afraid to die. They were afraid of failing. As the months passed, Lucy noticed something strange in the alien communications. The council had become suspicious. They knew humanity was building something, but their spies could not determine what. Human security had become too tight. Human secrets had become too well guarded. Well, they are worried, Lucy said during a late-night meeting. Some council members want to attack now, before we finish whatever we are building. Others want to wait and gather more information. The debate is getting heated. Can you predict when they will decide? Catherine asked. Not exactly, but I think we have 2 months, maybe 3. Catherine looked at her team. They were exhausted. They had given everything they had, but they needed to give more. Then we finish in 6 weeks, she said. Whatever it takes, we finish in 6 weeks. The final push nearly broke them. People worked until their bodies failed. Some died at their stations, their hearts giving out from the strain. But they did not stop. They could not stop, and finally, on a quiet Tuesday morning, Catherine Moore looked at her screens and saw green lights across the board. Every stabilizer was in place. Every generator was ready. The network was complete. It works, she whispered. Then louder, to her team, it works. We are ready. Across the galaxy, the council finished their debate. The final vote was unanimous. The purification fleet was authorized to destroy humanity. They did not know they were already too late. Hi. Admiral Zorith stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the stars blur past as 7,000 warships traveled toward the Sol system. He was the greatest military commander the Sindari had ever produced, and he had never lost a battle. He did not expect to lose this one. The humans had perhaps 200 ships capable of fighting. Their weapons were primitive. Their defenses were weak. Zorath had studied their military capabilities carefully, and he knew that his fleet could destroy every human vessel in less than an hour. "Admiral," his sensor officer reported, "we will arrive at the Sol system in 12 hours. Good. Prepare the fleet for combat operations. I want all weapons ready when we arrive." Zorath felt no joy in what he was about to do. He was a soldier, not a murderer, and the destruction of an entire species was not something he took lightly. But he understood why it was necessary. Humanity was dangerous. If left unchecked, they would eventually threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. Better to end them now, while they were still weak, and to fight a terrible war centuries later. Back on Earth, the evacuation had begun. Cities around the world activated their dimensional fields one by one. The process was terrifying for those who experienced it. A shimmering wall of light would appear at the edge of a city, then slowly move inward, consuming everything it touched. Buildings vanished. Streets disappeared. People walked into the light and ceased to exist in normal space. Catherine Moore monitored the process from her command center, her screens showing the progress of fields across the planet. So far, everything was working perfectly. 3 billion people had already shifted into subspace. Another 5 billion remained. "We need to move faster," Commander Vance said, standing beside her. "The alien fleet will arrive soon. We're moving as fast as we can. The fields need time to stabilize. If we push them too hard, they could collapse. And if the aliens arrive before we finish?" Catherine did not answer. They both knew what would happen. In cities around the world, people said goodbye to their homes. They gathered their families, their pets, their most precious belongings. Some prayed. Some cried. Some simply walked into the light in silence, trusting that the scientists knew what they were doing. Lucy Harper worked at a coordination center in Geneva, helping to manage the communications between evacuation sites. She had not slept in 2 days, but she could not rest. Every minute mattered. Every life saved was a victory. Her screens showed the alien fleet approaching. 12 hours away, then 10, then 8. "We're not going to make it," someone whispered behind her. "Yes, we are," Lucy replied firmly. "Keep working." Admiral Zoroff's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. The ships spread out in perfect formation. Sensors scanning for the human defenses they expected to encounter. The sensors found nothing. Report, Zorth demanded. "Admiral, we detect no human communications. No energy signatures from their settlements. No defensive positions. It's impossible. Scan again." They scanned again. The results were the same. Zorath ordered the fleet to advance. They passed the outer planets, cold worlds of ice and gas that drifted in the darkness. They passed the red planet called Mars, where human domes stood empty and silent. They approached Earth itself, that beautiful blue world that had given birth to humanity. The planet was intact. The cities still stood. The oceans still sparkled under the yellow sun, but no one was there. Zoroth stared at the empty world in confusion. 8 billion people had lived on this planet. Where had they gone? His ships landed soldiers in cities around the world. They found homes with food still on the tables, clothes still in the closets, vehicles still parked in the streets. They found toys scattered in yards. They found pets wandering alone, confused and hungry, but they found no humans. The search continued for weeks. Zoroth sent ships to every human colony, every space station, every outpost in the solar system. All were empty. Derelict ships drifted through space. Their crews vanished. Mining stations on asteroids stood. Abandoned. 8 billion humans had disappeared without a trace. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, the leaders of the galaxy gathered in emergency session. They demanded answers. Zorath had none to give. They killed themselves, Ambassador Kryn suggested. Some kind of mass suicide. They knew we were coming and chose death over defeat. Where are the bodies? Counselor Vareth asked. No one could answer.
Perhaps they fled into deep space.
Another ambassador offered. Hidden ships waiting beyond our sensors. We scanned every cubic meter of their system. There is nowhere to hide. The truth was beyond anything the council could imagine. They did not know about subspace. They did not know that reality had layers they had never discovered. They searched for humans in places humans no longer existed. Commander Daniel Vance had been the last human to leave normal space. He stood on a platform in Geneva watching the dimensional field consume the city around him. Building by building, street by street. Everything vanished into the shimmering light. Lucy Harper stood beside him, her eyes wet with tears. Catherine Moore was there too, along with a small group of volunteers who had refused to leave until everyone else was safe. It's beautiful, Lucy whispered as the field approached them. Terrifying, but beautiful. It worked, Catherine said, wonder in her voice. 30 years they laughed at my theories, and it worked. Vance watched the last buildings disappear. In a few moments, there would be nothing left of Geneva. Nothing left of Earth as humans had known it. Don't celebrate yet, he said quietly. We're stepping into the unknown. We don't know what subspace is really like. We don't know if we can survive there. We've traded one danger for another. At least we have a chance, Lucy Repley. Ed, that's more than the council wanted to give us. The field reached them. Vance felt a strange tingling sensation, like standing in an electric storm. The world around him blurred, shifted, transformed. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was no longer on Earth. He was somewhere else entirely. A place of strange colors and impossible geometry. Around him, the city of Geneva was rebuilding itself, piece by piece, in this new dimension. Humanity had escaped. The council had hit the button too late. But this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The Galactic Council declared victory. The human threat had been eliminated, they announced, though not in the way anyone expected. The strange creatures from Earth had somehow destroyed themselves, vanishing from existence before the purification fleet could reach them. The galaxy was safe, but many on the council felt no joy. They had prepared for battle, for resistance, for the righteous destruction of a dangerous enemy. Instead, they found only empty cities and silent streets. It was like swinging a sword at an enemy who turned to smoke. Ambassador Melian of the Vorth could not stop thinking about the vanished humans. She had been one of the 3 who voted against their destruction, and something about their disappearance troubled her deeply. It makes no sense, she said to her aide, a young Vorth named Talon. As they walked through the empty streets of a human city called New York, the council had allowed some species to study the abandoned human worlds, hoping to learn more about what had happened. Melian had volunteered immediately. The city was eerie in its emptiness. Towers of glass and steel rose toward the sky, magnificent and silent. Vehicles sat motionless on the streets, their doors still open as if their drivers had simply stepped away for a moment. In one building, Melian found a meal still sitting on a table, rotted now, but clearly prepared with care. They did not panic, she observed. Look at this place. There is no destruction. No signs of chaos. Everything is orderly, arranged. If they were dying, if they knew the end was coming, why is there no panic? Perhaps they accepted their fate peacefully, Talon suggested. 8 billion people? Every single one, including their children. Melian shook her head. I have studied many species, Talon. I have never seen one that could face extinction with such perfect calm. She continued her investigation, visiting city after city, planet after planet. Everywhere she found the same thing: order, preparation, and no bodies. It was as if the humans had known exactly what was coming and had prepared for it in some way the council could not understand. In an underground facility beneath, it's a mountain range called the Alps. Melian found something interesting. The facility was massive, filled with strange equipment that her scientists could not identify. Most of the data had been erased, but some fragments remained. One word appeared again and again in the recovered files. Exodus Melian gathered her findings and requested a private meeting with the other 2 species who had voted against human extermination. They met in secret, on a small moon far from Nexus Prime, where no one would observe them. I believe the humans escaped, Melian announced. The other ambassadors looked at her with confusion. The Trallian representative, a being made of living crystal, spoke first. Escaped where? We searched their entire system. We scanned every ship, every station. There is nowhere they could have gone. Nowhere in normal space, Melian agreed. But what if they found somewhere else? What if they discovered a way to leave our reality entirely? She presented her evidence, the Exodus files, the strange equipment, the perfect order of the abandoned cities. She explained her theory that humans had somehow shifted into another dimension, a place the Council could not detect or reach. Impossible, the Trallian said. Our scientists have studied dimensional theory for millions of years. If such a thing were possible, we would have discovered it. Would we? Melian asked. Humans have been traveling between stars for less than 500 years. Yet they developed technologies that surprised us again and again. Perhaps they saw something we missed. Perhaps they asked questions we never thought to ask. The third ambassador, a tall being called Varen of the Kelith, had been silent until now. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. If you are right, if humans still exist somewhere beyond our reach, what does that mean? Melian had thought about this question for many nights. It means we did not eliminate a threat. We created one. The humans who escaped will remember what we tried to do. They will remember that we voted to destroy them. And someday, somehow, they will return. Then we should tell the Council, the Trallian said. They must prepare. Tell them what? That we suspect humans might be alive somewhere we cannot find. They would laugh at us. They would say, we are paranoid, frightened by ghosts. Melian shook her head. No, we keep this secret between us. We watch. We wait. And we hope that when humanity returns, they are more forgiving than we deserve. Far away, in the strange dimension called subspace, humanity was learning to survive in their new home. The transition had been difficult. Subspace did not follow the same rules as normal reality. Light behaved strangely. Gravity worked differently. The sky was not blue, but shifting colors that changed with no pattern anyone could understand. Many people struggled with the adjustment. Some could not sleep, disturbed by the wrongness of their new environment. Some fell into depression, mourning the world they had left behind. Children had nightmares about the shimmering fields that had swallowed their homes, but humans were adaptable. They always had been. Commander Vance organized the military to maintain order and help with construction. Catherine Moore led the scientists in studying subspace, learning its rules, finding ways to use its strange properties. Lucy Harper worked on communications, building systems that could connect the scattered human settlements across this new dimension. Slowly, the panic faded. People found routines. They built new homes, planted new gardens, created new communities. The children began to play again, their laughter echoing through streets that had been silent with fear. We're going to be okay, Lucy said one evening. Standing on a hill overlooking the new city that had risen where Geneva once stood, the sky above was purple, streaked with gold. Strange and beautiful, Vance stood beside her, older now, his hair completely gray. For now, but we cannot stay hidden forever. Someday we will need to return. To what? The Council wants us dead. The Council tried to kill us and failed. That changes things. Vance turned to look at her. We have time now. Time to grow. Time to learn. Time to become something they cannot destroy. And when we are ready, we will go back. Not as refugees or victims, as equals. Lucy thought about the aliens who had voted to exterminate her species. She thought about the debates she had monitored, the cold discussions about whether humans deserved to exist. Part of her wanted revenge. Part of her wanted to make them pay. But another part of her remembered Ambassador Melian, the one who had argued for peace. Not all of them were enemies. Some had tried to save humanity, even if they had failed. When we go back, she said slowly, what kind of people will we be? Will we be like them? Will we destroy species that threaten us? Or will we be better? Vance did not answer immediately. It was a question humanity would need to answer for themselves in the centuries to come. For now, They had survived. That was enough. 50 years passed in normal space. The Galactic Council grew comfortable in their victory over the vanished humans. New generations were born who had never seen a human, who knew of Earth only as a strange world of empty cities and abandoned dreams. The human scare became a story told to frighten children, a warning about species that grew too fast and burned out before their time. The purification fleet was reduced. The emergency protocols were relaxed. The Council turned its attention to other matters, other conflicts, other problems. Humanity faded from memory, but in subspace, time moved differently. While 50 years passed in normal reality, 300 years passed in the dimension where humanity had fled. 3 centuries of growth, learning, and transformation. The humans who emerged on the other side of those centuries were not the same as the ones who had entered. They had built wonders that their ancestors could not have imagined. Cities floated in the void of subspace. Vast structures of light and crystal that defied the laws of normal physics. Ships moved through layers of reality like fish swimming through water, appearing and disappearing at will. Technology that the Council would have called magic had become ordinary to human children. Catherine Moore had died long ago, but her work had spawned entirely new fields of science. Her descendants continued her research, pushing the boundaries of dimensional engineering further than she ever dreamed possible. The question was no longer whether humans could survive in subspace, but whether there was anything they could not do. And throughout those 300 years, humanity had been watching. Subspace was not a separate universe, but a shadow of the original. From that shadow, humans could observe normal space without being observed themselves. They watched the Council debate and scheme. They watched the purification fleet patrol the stars. They watched species rise and fall, empires grow and crumble. They never forgot what the Council had tried to do, Admiral. Christina Vance stood on the bridge of her flagship, the first ship of the human reclamation fleet. She was the great-great-granddaughter of Daniel Vance, and she had trained her entire life for this moment. Behind her, arranged in perfect formation, waited 200,000 warships. Each one was capable of phasing between dimensions, appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, and vanishing before any counterattack could reach them. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in human history, and it was only a fraction of humanity's true strength. "Status report," she commanded. "All ships report ready." "Admiral," her tactical officer replied. "Dimensional drives are charged. Weapons systems are online. We can begin the operation on your order." Stina looked at the display showing normal space. There was Nexus Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council. There was the station where, 300 years ago, 12 species had voted to destroy humanity. They had no idea what was coming. "We could end them," her tactical officer observed quietly. "Phase in, destroy the station, phase out before they even understand what happened. We could eliminate the Council completely." Christina shook her head. That was never the plan. She remembered the stories her grandfather had told her, passed down from Daniel Vance himself. He had spoken of Lucy Harper, who first discovered the threat. He had spoken of Catherine Moore, who saved them all. But he had also spoken of Ambassador Melian, the alien who had argued against humanity's destruction. Not all of them were enemies. Some had tried to help. Humanity would remember that. "We return not as conquerors," Christina said, "but as equals who cannot be conquered. We show them our strength so they understand that attacking us again would be suicide. But we offer peace first. What they do with that offer is up to them." She gave the order. The fleet phased out of subspace. On Nexus Prime, the Council was in session. They were discussing trade agreements, territorial disputes, the ordinary business of governing a galaxy. They had no warning of what was about to happen. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Ships appeared from nowhere. Thousands of them, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. They surrounded the Council station in a sphere of steel and light, their weapons powered, but not firing. They simply appeared and waited. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Council members rushed to their windows, staring in disbelief at the fleet that had materialized around them. They recognized the design of the ships from historical records. They recognized the symbols painted on the hulls. Humans, the humans, had returned. Every communication screen in the galaxy lit up with the same message. Every display, every device, every system capable of receiving signals showed the same face, a human woman in military uniform, her expression calm and confident. "We are humanity," Admiral Christina Vance announced. 50 years ago in your time, 3 centuries ago in ours, you voted to destroy us. You sent a fleet to exterminate our species. We were gone before they arrived. Now we have returned." She paused, letting her words sink in across 1,000 worlds. "We do not seek revenge. We do not wish to destroy you, but we will not permit aggression. We will not allow any species to threaten our existence again. The galaxy has new rules now. You will learn to live by them, or you will face consequences you cannot imagine." In the council chamber, Counselor Vareth felt his heart beating fast with fear. He was old now, ancient even by Sindari standards, and he remembered the debates about humanity. He remembered arguing for their destruction. He remembered believing that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated. He had been right about one thing. Humans were a threat, but not the kind he had imagined. The human fleet did not attack. They waited as the council scrambled to respond, as ambassadors shouted at each other in panic, as military commanders realized that their weapons were useless against ships that could phase between dimensions. Finally, a voice spoke up in the chaos. Ambassador Melian, older now, but still alive, rose to address the council. "I warned you," she said quietly. "I told you that destroying humans was wrong. I told you that potential threat was not the same as actual threat. You did not listen. Now we face the consequences." She turned to the communication screen, to the image of Admiral Vance that still watched them. "On behalf of those who voted against your destruction, I apologize for what the council tried to do. We welcome humanity back to the galactic community. We hope that peace is possible." Christina Vance heard these words and allowed herself a small smile. "Peace is possible," she replied, "but it must be earned. We will be watching." On Earth, the first humans in 50 years walked the streets of the empty cities. They found the ruins of homes their ancestors had left behind, the bones of pets that had died waiting for masters who never returned. They found the world they had abandoned and began the long work of reclaiming it. In a park in Geneva, Lucy Harper's descendants planted flowers at the memorial built in her honor. The inscription was simple. "She listened to the stars and saved us all." High above, the ships of humanity held their position around Nexus Prime. They would remain there for years, a reminder of what humanity had become. The council would never forget the lesson they had learned. They had tried to destroy humanity before humanity could become a threat. They had failed. Now humanity was stronger than any species in the galaxy, and they had chosen mercy over vengeance. The council hit the button too late. Humans were gone before it began, and when they returned, they were no longer prey. They were the most powerful species the galaxy had ever known, and they would never be threatened again.